Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? This is Kevin Unglad, and you are now tuning in to the Wise Guys Podcast, brought to you by Flowered Concrete. Check it out. Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? This is your boy, Kevin Unglad.
And this is Mark Cruz.
And we are here. Yes, once again, we are back for another week of the Wise Guys Podcast. Mark, I haven't spoken to you in about a week. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. Till the day to go. You know how it is.
The usual, I see, the usual. Yeah, man, same here. Another day, still grinding. Ready for the new week coming up. On top of that, Mark, I want to, get right into it because I'm really, really, really excited about our guest for today and what he's going to contribute and offer to the show. But before we bring him in, I would just like to give a shout out, if you don't mind. I would like to give a shout out today to another person who's killing it out here in terms of the student loans debt game, like just crushing it. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think her name is Ashley, but I don't want to get it right, so I'll tell you right now. So I'd like to give a big, big shout out to Ashley Hemati. All right. Ashley Hemati. So Mark, Ashley Hemati is an optometrist at Physicians Eye Care Group in Houston, Texas. And similar to Mandy Velez, Ashley Hemati has crushed her student loan debt. But get this, right? So Mandy did hers in 6 years, right? And she had a 102K in debt, right? Ashley did hers in 3 years, and she had $200,000 $9,000 in debt, man, and she crushed that in 3 years.
Wow, that's a beautiful thing, man. I mean, that amount of money is just insane to eliminate from your debt. So, yeah, kudos to her for sure.
Absolutely. So what I decided to do, because I actually came across her story on LinkedIn. I was just scrolling on LinkedIn, and I happened to come across her story sometime last week. So what I decided to do, I decided to shoot my shot to see if we could get her on the podcast. So I sent her a note saying that both you and I would love to have her on and to talk about how she did it. And also, I think it would be great in regards to her adding value and contributing to the podcast in terms of like informing, the wise community out there. I also reached out, believe it or not. I actually did. I reached out to Mandy Velez yesterday too. So I don't know if either one will reach back out, but it would be such a great big deal, I think, for us if one of them would want to come on and tell their story. No?
Absolutely. That would be a beautiful thing to hear it firsthand. So, yeah, that's great, man.
Yeah, man.
Gotta shoot the shot.
Gotta shoot the shot, man. So, for sure. So, hopefully, one of them will get back soon enough. But, yeah, man. So, today, I wanted to, transition to our next episode. We were talking about it last week in regards to what we were going to talk about today. But I think, after going back and forth with you over the week and kind of debating, I think we kind of settled on something. So, ladies and gentlemen, today's episode 5 of the Wise Guys podcast is called Black Educators Matter, okay? Black Educators Matter. We might make this into a series similar to Young and Broke, but we're going to start this one off right, okay? And for today's show, man, I'm so happy to not only welcome the second official guest to the Wise Guys show, but someone who I truly admire, someone who I truly respect. This gentleman right here, Mark, I met him exactly about 2 years ago and some change, 2 summers ago, in July of 2017. He's also a fellow Teach for America alumni, such as myself, and he right now is teaching in Philly. But I don't really want to get too much into it. I want him to tell his own story. So ladies and gents out there, ladies and gents in the Wise community, please, please, please give it up for my boy, Anthony, welcome onto the show, brother.
Welcome. What's going on, man? It's a pleasure to be welcome onto such an amazing platform.
No, absolutely. So, so for the people out there, they love to get acquainted in regards to, who we bring onto the show, and they want to know a little bit about them. So could you please give like a 30-second or, 30 second to a minute elevator pitch synopsis about who you are, what you do, and all that jazz?
Okay, well, Anthony Harris, born and raised in Trenton, New Jersey. Been living in Philadelphia the last 10 years. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, minor in African American studies. I have a master's degree in social work. I've worked in educational and nonprofit industries 10 plus years. I've been a teacher. I've worked in different admin roles, worked in different nonprofits, ran youth development programs. So I have a kind of wide range or gamut of experiences as it relates to like educational experiences in the context of like schools or school-based programs.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Nice.
Excellent. And if you don't mind me asking you, how did you? Because you just said you got your master's in social work. I'm wondering how the master's in social work plays into your role as an educator. If you don't mind sharing just a little bit, how'd you get into education? How'd you start teaching?
It's actually funny. So I come from a family of educators. My two older brothers were teachers. Their wives were teachers. I have a cousin who's a principal. So I kind of always been in the realm or kind of in the space of other educators. I think for me, it's pushed me to initially say I never wanted to teach, because of how difficult I knew it was. And honestly, when it really came down to it was I was really, my senior year of college, I was really into getting a PhD, and so I had a senior thesis, and it's a free-based thing that I wrote. I took the year off. I was going to start working on pretty much developing this 40-page thesis and getting a writing sample for a PhD application. My best friend at the time, gave me a book from Alexandria. It was New Jim Crow. It was like a new book, and I became fascinated with the new Jim Crow and like mass incarceration and prison reform. And so I applied to a couple of programs. I ended up getting into Penn's policy practice program because they had this interesting sequence on curriculum on American racism, the racism sequence, and it was super interesting. And so I was coming to my master's. I was going to do prison reform, and like I was going to address mass incarceration, and like, that was my passion. And as I began to kind of really delve deep into kind of what that meant, I began to see kind of that prison reform or mass incarceration was closely related to like failing schools and under-resourced schools. And so I began to see like there was this kind of that connection between like school to prison pipeline culture. And so I was like, I need to be in schools. So then I was like, you know what, I'm leaving MSW and I want to work in schools.
Right.
So I didn't want to teach, but I was like, I work in schools and get capacities. And so that's when I moved to kind of like creating like programs that were kind of housed in schools. So I was part of like out of school time programs that I kind of managed, and they went to schools and provided certain kinds of services. And then as I kind of got even deeper connected, I was like, wow, you know what? Teachers are really making an impact on students because they have this kind of direct connection to them. So I said, you know what? I had done a couple of PDs for TFA core members for their different, we call them, what are they called? TV Saturday, which is it's a Saturday that they have this once a month for every core member, and which we get what they call professional development. So I did some PDs for that.
Okay.
And I had a couple of friends who had done TFA, who also had done TFA and then decided to work for TFA National and then work for different TFA offices locally. I think, how do you think? I kind of asked, like, what would it mean me being a teacher? And they were like, you should do it. And so I decided to be a teacher, and I decided that Philly was what I wanted to stay. I've been here at that point the last 7 years. So I was like, you know what? I have all these relationships, all these partnerships, and I'd rather stay here and kind of cultivate these relationships in the context of the classroom. And so I decided to teach. And I would say a huge part of that was really also the Black Male Educators Council, BMAC. They were a huge influential factor of me deciding that I wanted to teach.
Right.
Because the number 2% really kind of impacted me as I thought about my own educational trajectory and understanding like the fact that I didn't have access to certain kinds of educators who wasn't identified with racially.
Yeah.
So that was kind of what I was. It was like, listen, like you're a Black man, like you have enough of a skill set, you're great with kids, you can plan well, you should be a teacher. And so I said, you know what, let me go in the classroom and teach. And it was the hardest yet most fulfilling time that I spent in the classroom was teaching. That's kind of where I came from. I really came from wanting to get a PhD and study from a theoretical framework to like actually say, oh no, I want to practice around like prison reform, to the school, to the pipeline, to being like actually in the classroom.
Right.
That's kind of where that's kind of like my kind of what happened, my pathway.
Excellent, man. Excellent. real quick, Mark, I just wanted to let you know in regards to Ant, this is going to be real brief. Like when we were doing our teaching, when we were doing our teaching summer program 2 years ago in Philly, I was just so amazed and just like so impressed by his prowess in terms of like the way he dealt with his kids. He was loving, he was nurturing, but he was powerful. Like the way he would talk to them in the classroom, because we had to do like these observations like during our summer program where we would go around to each teacher and kind of see, you know, what they were doing. And I was always blown away by just like his presence, man. And I could see that he really commanded the respect of the kids. Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to start off with this. You know, we want to get right into it. You know, we want to make sure that, you know, the listeners get as much as they possibly can from having you on. So for you, you know, how is it like? Okay, so first and foremost, there isn't a lot of there aren't a lot of black male educators in the classroom, right? Or at least it feels that way, depending on what school you go to, what type, whether it's public, charter, private, and things like that. How is it for you as a black male educator navigating within the space where most of your students, right, predominantly most of them are African American or, you know, Latino children of color, but then at the same time you're still navigating within a space in which the cultural institution itself is white. How do you as an educator navigate around that, and how do you make of yourself in terms of a teacher in that space? What do you do, or how does it reflect in your daily practices?
I think one of the first things is that I think that I was very adamant about making sure that when I received coaching from my principal, that it was rooted in curriculum and not rooted in giving me praise for being able to manage my classroom. I think one of the pitfalls that I found black men who teach to fall into is the role of the coach, right? So they do these amazing relationships with students. They're like positive and they can like go into their classroom and they can command it to their students. But when it comes to actually delivering curriculum, they fail because they kind of invest in themselves and become very adamant about being able to like control kids' bodies, almost police black kids' bodies, right? And so for me, how I didn't fall into the trap is, or how I navigate the trap is, like I want to really learn how do I really dig into my content? How do I really dig into the instructional routines that are going to help me deliver content that's the most accessible to the student? But I think for me, I was very adamant with my supervisor. I said, listen, don't come to my classroom and tell me how well my students are behaving, right? That to me would be the biggest smack in my face, because I'm a social worker. My training, that's kind of where I come from. I was a non-traditional student coming into TFA. I was 30 when I went to classroom, so I had all these set of experiences that really helped inform my practice as a teacher. And so I was very, very, very clear about the fact that I don't want anyone to ever give me feedback on how well I'm managing my class. I'm very aware of that, right? Give me my feedback on whether or not my objectives align with my activity. Like, make sure that like I'm engaging in practices where students are developing access material. Like, did my stop and job make sense? Did my turn talk make sense? Like, what was going on in that class? And so for me, how I navigated the pitfalls were literally just being honest about like the fact that I wanted direct and specific targeted feedback on my delivery of instruction and also the planning, how I planned it, like all the curriculum that was attached to it.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. So I have a question for both of you gentlemen today. And I definitely want to get your perspective on it, but I also want to see what Mark has to say on this, especially with him having been in the classroom as a student growing up, and and then obviously now, sometimes Mark will come into my classrooms and do some financial lit workshops for my students. So for both of you gentlemen, starting with Mark, we're grown men now, but we've obviously come up in the public school setting. Did you as well, Ant? Did you go to public school too, or no?
Yeah, I was public school.
Okay, cool. So this question.
I did public school, elementary school, and then I did charter school. I mean, charter school is public, but charter in high school is public.
Okay, cool.
Public,
right. Okay, great. So this question definitely applies to you as well. So, Mark, I know for me growing up, in Queens, I went to PS 123, I went to 226, and then I ended up going to Martin Van Buren for high school. I always felt as if I couldn't explain it, because when you're a kid, you can't really articulate and express your thoughts and get them out clearly. In a very not that you're not intelligent, but there's like a way like in which you communicate as adults adult, you don't do it as a child. All I know for sure is that when I was a kid, there was a certain type of feeling in regards to schooling that I didn't like. I didn't like the way, I felt restricted, or, me and my fellow student body, we felt restricted in terms of like being told what to do, when we would eat, how we would line up, when would we, transition towards dismissal and things like that. It kind of felt to me at times like, even in high school, we had metal detectors at Martin Van Buren, and, shout out to anybody who went to Van, because if you went to Van, you know how crazy it was back then. But like, it kind of felt like kind of what Ant was talking about, like school was prison. Like, it kind of felt like I was in a jail cell sometimes. Did you have any like kind of same similar experiences, Mark, or what was your experience like growing up and going to school? Did you hate it?
Yeah, definitely, man. I can totally agree with the things that both of you guys were saying, because I feel like schools in our community, it's focused on control. Like you said, it's focused on how well a teacher can keep the class calm and together. So it was almost as if, the education came second and the control and, just the containment came first.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it felt like. It was always about, keep everybody in line, keep everybody in sight, and make sure no one is acting up. And that's pretty much the vibe that I always got. And I always felt like, there was no real room for expression or, just giving the children a chance to develop, because it was more about discipline,
Right.
And especially if you're in a classroom where there's, one or two children being disruptive, it seems as if the whole class gets punished most of the time. So it just feels like you're almost in, like you said, similar to like a prison or something like that, because it just seems like they're just trying to suppress the energy and the activity of the children. So I could see where both of you guys are talking about when it comes to that, man. So that's the vibe that I got at my schools that I went to.
Ant?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I wish I'm answering the right question. My experience.
Yes. Right. So what was your experience like in public schools? Did you hate it? Did you feel oppressed?
Absolutely. I mean, I would say like not necessarily. I feel like elementary school, middle school, I think I had a pretty cool experience. I think that I would say not that interesting in high school, but I do feel like there was a level of criminalization or policing that occurred in high school. So for me, in high school, I remember like having to like literally stuff my phone in the foot of my temple, right? Because we couldn't have our constructs. We couldn't have phones in school, so I had to be very particular about how I hit my phone, because if the phone went off when we went to the metal detector, it could mean like get more complicated, and like being a part of a single parent family where my mom needed to had my sister and I was part of activity. Like, it was like my phone was essential to me because I needed to be able to access my mom and other different key points if she needed me to be responsible for something. So I had to have my phone on me. But then there was this level of, because I had students who I went to school with who brought weapons to school, who brought guns to school, who engaged in illegal practices, I was kind of clumped in with them, and as a result, we were subject to being suppressed. Legally, not even legally, I mean legally seized and searched any moment if there was probable cause, or we couldn't have cell phones in school, or you had to be like careful how you kind of be able to get in the building. We had to take off our belts on our shoes. I mean, it was like literally, it was like I was treated as a criminal, like really coming to school. Like I didn't have to wear uniforms, but I do remember like being watched down, being needed to metal detector, being very clear that if you had something on you, a phone, like it was like almost lumped in the same category as like a drug or something, like, or having something illegal on you. So I would definitely say my experience in high school particularly was much more criminalized. I was much more policed in high school. But I do remember elementary school also feeling like I was subject to the gaze of the white woman's imagination around like what it meant to be a black boy. Right? So I think that oftentimes there's this level of adultification that occurred with me in certain spaces, and as a black boy, right? And so even like I think for me, I was very I was a kid who spoke early, who was a little bit more aware of the world than his peers. Like, so I talk my shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that oftentimes my level of candor, or the way I kind of interacted, or where it could be misconstrued as a disrespect or challenging authority.
Right.
And so I remember more specifically to my third grade teacher really taking it personally when I would do certain shit when I was, maybe I was too talkative or too much of this, too much of that, but really adultifying me and making me seem just like I was challenging in this very aggressive way, creating this narrative that I remember my mom doing. I think she scolded me for, really, really humiliating. And so I remember that experience that always sticks with me, thinking of my third grade teacher, how she made me feel as it relates to how I could be in a classroom, how I could be in school. So those are kind of my experiences of where I remember distinctly and specifically being kind of policed or had my kind of being adultified prior to actually being an adult.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? Because when you think about those experiences that we've gone through, as young, as kids, as young men growing up, and now, just looking back and reflecting, I don't know. I think for me, I didn't really start to appreciate schooling. I didn't really start to appreciate it or start to feel confident and not just liking school, but knowing what I was capable in and my abilities. Probably until I was in about 10th or 11th grade, because around that time I had a U.S. history. No, I had a global teacher, and again, ladies and gentlemen, wise ass community out there, I think I expressed this on the first or the second episode, but I'll say it again. I come from Haitian descent. Both of my parents are Haitian, and I had a Haitian teacher, Mr. Devaru. I'll never forget him. Again, he was my global teacher, and I remember I did really well in his global class. I would get B's straight on out from the first term all the way to the last term. I got B's and B pluses, and I remember the following year, my junior year in 11th grade, I remember I found myself, I wound up in a U.S. history course. I was AP, in the AP U.S. history course. I was like, how the hell did I end up here? I'm not as smart as these kids. What am I doing here? And I remember I asked him, I was like, sir, I ended up in AP U.S. history. Do you know how that happened? And he was like, yes, sir. He's like, you, sir, have a great mind. You have a lot of potential within you. So I recommended you for the course because you don't need to be with these lowlifes. You need to be with students that are just as smart as you, just as inquisitive, and just as intelligent, that will challenge your perception of the world and everything that is to come with it. And I was like, are you sure? He said, yeah. I was like, I don't think I'm as smart as these guys. He was like, trust me, you are. Just work hard, do your best, get any extra help that you need, tutoring, and just put your best foot forward. And I was like, all right, cool. And I did it, and I did struggle at first in that AP U.S. history course, but over time I got better to the point where my senior year I ended up taking AP English, and man, my confidence grew so much, it grew by leaps and bounds, that by the time I got to college, I already knew how to, study. I already knew that I needed to take extra courses my senior year in order to prepare for the natural rigor and transition that would come with college. So the reason why I bring this up is because I wanted to say to you, Ant, have you ever identified with a teacher that a black male educator or Hispanic, any kind of minority educator that kind of instilled some form of confidence in you or inspired you to that led to the transformation to who you are today? Or have you always been this way? Just wondering some of your thoughts. Or have you done the same? If you can't answer that question, have you done the same for a student over your years of teaching?
I think that I'm always intrinsically motivated to want to learn. I can't think of any teacher specifically who I felt empowered me or was kind of a catalyst to me wanting to kind of cultivate this kind of hunger for learning. I can't say that there's a bunch of particular who did that for me, right? I think there were certain teachers who I had hoped that they would come from, but it didn't come, right? So I had teachers of color whom I really oh man, they're going to really just take them under their wing, and they're going to really empower me, and it didn't happen, right? And I think that I would say the opposite of that is that my expectations of them being this superpower of a teacher did not come into fruition. the way I wanted it to specifically, and it actually didn't give you what it is that I wanted. So I think that, like, I've always had this desire. Like, I've always felt like I want to change the world. I want to change the world. I want to make things happen. But I can't think of it in the sad. I want to say that I can't think of a teacher of color, male or female, who had a impact on me in the regard of being like, oh man, I had a teacher, now I want to change the world. They were black teachers. They really made me. I think there were people, different community members, different community leaders who I looked to, or different heroes who I read about that I more closely identify with. But I can't think of a teacher, which is, I think, speaks to a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of sad, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. You know what's interesting? What's interesting, fellas? It wasn't until my senior year of high school, when I was applying and putting in work for college apps, that I found out about Howard. I was like, what's Howard University? What's an HBCU? I had no clue what HBCUs were even at that time, which kind of tells you a lot, you know? And an Ivy League, that was, I thought, like, that's where rich white people go. I wasn't even dreaming about that then, you know, or even thinking about those along those lines. But, so Mark, you're someone who I truly value, because you've taught me a lot. And one thing I've learned just by having conversations with you is that sometimes you don't need to rely on formal schooling and formal education in order to be privy to society and be privy to the many things that we as human beings need to know in order to survive and make a living and to function within the world. And so the question I wanted to ask you, someone who's not a teacher and someone who doesn't come from an educational background, educational background in terms of higher education. Obviously, you went to school, but you know what I mean. What I wanted to ask you is, what do you think is the problem with education today, especially within the public sector for kids in the impoverished communities?
Well, in impoverished, I would say technically, there is no problem with the education system, because the reason for the education system is to create employees. So it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's not made to create millionaires. It's not made to create successful people. It's made to create employees. And if we look at the history of schooling, that was the exact reason that schools were put in place. Yeah. Even if we think back to these prestigious universities, a lot of them are named after businessmen and entrepreneurs and stuff like that. Yeah. They contributed towards these schools, and they helped build these schools to find the best employees. Yeah. So there's no problem with the system. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to, whether it's an employee or it's a prisoner. So, that is the system. So it is working. It's functioning. But when it comes to, in our communities, the problem that I see, of course, is the lack of guidance, the lack of mentorship. It's a lack of resources altogether. But, as we know, this is by design. This isn't a coincidence. The prison industry is, a multi-billion-dollar industry for a reason. And if they provide us the education we need to move leaps and bounds forward, the prison industry suffers. If we provide, the impoverished urban communities the tools to rise up economically, we have a problem when it comes to the amount of prisoners coming out of these communities. So, from a business perspective, there's no problem. But, when it comes to ethics, it's a huge problem. So I really, I can never say I know the solution or I think I know it can work, because I feel as if the resources are scarce by design, for a reason. So it's a unconventional perspective, but I see that as fact.
So should we look at it within the lens of capitalism and through a capitalistic structure? Because my next question to you is, not every person within the black or the Latinx community is going to be a businessman, or is going to be, a professional athlete or a musician or anything of that nature, or a doctor or a dentist. We need laborers in order to run our society. So do you think that that's why the school system is in place, the systematic structure itself is in place the way it is?
Absolutely. Because if everyone's a millionaire, who's going to do the lower level positions, the lower level jobs? If everyone is educated, who's going to do these, the factory jobs, the production jobs? So we do need, it's almost like a pyramid structure. There's the bottom, there's the middle, there's the top. Everybody can't be at the top.
Yeah.
That's unbalanced.
Yeah.
Who's going to create our items? Who's going to create our, the things that we buy so much? Who's going to build these cars and build these houses? Someone's got to do it. But I know a millionaire's not going to build your house. So it's a balance that is in place. And I mean, people that are into sociology, they understand this specific balance that needs to be in place, and the school system is the perfect tool to keep that balance. We give the resources here, we give a little less resources here. Why? Because we need workers and we need owners. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah. And in regards to what Mark just said, do you agree or do you differ in perspective? What do you think?
I think that we have become conditioned to believe that. I think when Mark talked, and we were talking about this idea of traditional education versus this idea of industrial or agricultural based education, or skills based education.
Yeah.
I think that we've got to stop valuing or devaluing one form of education over the other, right? So if we think about this kind of common misconception around the whole Du Bois and Washington debate, right? So it's the idea of Du Bois making all this comment or this conjecture around black folks need to be educated within white institutions, access to higher education. That is how we shift the dynamic, and that's when we shift the culture around the plight of people, African Americans in this country, right? And you have Washington, right? Now, mind you, in context, Du Bois is saying this message in the North, which, although there was a lot of racist tensions and hostilities happening, was relatively not as intense as what was happening in the South regarding racial issues, right? So we have to contextualize both these brothers' ideologies, right? And what they were saying and the context in which they were saying these statements, what was happening where they were living, right? And so looking at Washington's kind of debate, are saying we need to kind of create our own and cultivate and become this, independent, surveyors of the land, and create our own. And so I think over time we were taught. I think if you did manual labor, I think we associated that with slavery. Right? I think there's this huge idea of skilled labor is seen as unattractive. It's not seen as something that's necessary. And I think industrialization, which is all these jobs that now use machines to do, and kind of transitioning or shifting how we look at labor, should this conversation around education, right? And so I am very much aware that I have students who just interacting with and engaging with them do not have the skill set to look at a text, divvy it up, read it, and really interrogate it, right? Annotate it. It's very limited, right? But I have students who, if I told them that a destiny built, could literally look at it and build it within minutes, right? And so we've got to stop valuing and devaluing skill sets, right? And so a plumber's with a master's degree, right? I cannot go and deal with my a plumbing system, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how to sneak a drain, right?
Right.
I don't want to be for changing my tire, right?
Right.
I think there has to be a conversation that there are skill sets. I think that what has happened over the time is that we tend to promote certain skill sets as being necessary, and those are the ones who, as a community, we pay certain kinds of money for their skill set, right? And so a doctor, a lawyer, someone who is classically educated, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Is deemed somebody who's prestigious and who has access to all this money, right? mechanic who, I'm living in Philadelphia right now, and I don't like to need a car, but living in Jersey, you need a car, right?
Yeah.
I don't need my doctor if my car is broken down, my engine's messed up, right? I need my mechanic, right?
Right.
But why is a mechanic valued in the same way? Why is an electrician, a plumber, valued, a barber, a cosmetologist valued the same way a doctor or a lawyer? Like, why is the prestige lessened?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think for me, it's more this conversation of like, there's this huge divide around what we value, right? And so this idea of like, I believe that if you're educated and you go to these institutions, that you somehow are amazing. But I know barbers who probably make twice my salary, right? And I have a master's degree, right? From a Ivy League institution, right? But there's barbers, there's electricians, there's other skilled laborers who make probably double what I make, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet, if you put us in the same room, in certain contexts, who I am is more valuable than who they are. Unless that person needs their skill for them specifically. And I think that's kind of fucked up. That's a fucked up perspective to have.
I got you.
And
Yeah.
that is education in general, how I see it. There's this divide between, do you have a skill set and is it useful for me? But in this context, you being able to take a drain doesn't matter to me. Like, do you know salt? Do you know these theories? That is important, which I think is so superficial and such bullshit.
Definitely, my brother. So it was a bit of a misconception. I wasn't devaluing any skill set. I was mere speaking in terms of employee versus, a business owner or someone of wealth, basically. So I was saying that someone that, let's say, is a janitor at a school, right? If we look at it as a pyramid structure, let's say there's an owner at the top, employees at the bottom, and let's say managers in the middle. That janitor works for the school. He would be considered an employee. So I'm saying in order for the structure, for everything to be balanced, we do need people to be employees. So it's not saying that a skill is devalued, because I always promote entrepreneurship. So of course, if someone's a plumber, that's an excellent trade. That's an excellent skill set. But I'm saying the employee is needed in the balance. I'm not devaluing anything at all.
Oh, no. I wasn't saying you in general, like, connecting about my thoughts about education. I think what you said was definitely true. Like, I wasn't saying that you were saying that it wasn't value. I was saying that my thought that I would get education, we frame it, is that it's in this kind of binary. There's one who's educated or for the educated masses, or you're a skilled laborer, and that's your value, and we can value your value. I'm not saying you said that. I got what you were saying. What you were saying makes sense.
Well, I definitely get what you're saying, because that is true. Because people do tend to value education. Even like Kev, we have conversations about this all the time. The way, as you have your master's degree, and Anthony, you as well have your master's degree, people will perceive you guys to be above them. If they're just a regular, like, skilled laborer.
Yeah.
It's like you'll always be seen as higher or smarter because you have the degree. But it's just definitely, it's like you said, it's just a matter of skill and trade. So absolutely. I definitely agree with that for sure.
Now let me ask you both this. I really want to ask you both this, because I really want to build upon this point. I think this is very, very interesting. How have we as a society failed the society in itself, right? How have we failed the society as a whole when we do that, right? So, for example, me and my girlfriend are both teachers, right? And Mark, you're a businessman, and on top of being an entrepreneur, and you're an educator as well. We're not just educators; we're involved in a whole bunch of other avenues and things like that. But like, imagine if and we go to this gala or this ball for educators, and then some of our friends come along and they'll bring their boyfriend, girlfriends, husbands, wives, whatever, and that person is a plumber or a janitor, and then they meet you, whatever, whatnot, and then they meet your friends, whatever, whatnot, and then your friend is like, this is my fiance, whatever, whatnot, oh great, fancy, what do you do? I I work as a janitor, at such and such school, blah, 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 within this district in Philadelphia, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden the person's like, oh, wow, that's nice, that's cute. And then they turn away and then they start talking to you and like, wow, so tell me more about Penn and your master's at social work. Could you, tell me more about, what have you been doing with the degree lately, or, what you're currently doing now? So my question to you is like, why does that happen? Why do we as a society, place less value on someone's credentials or lack thereof because of where they went, what institutions are that they're affiliated with, and where they come from? Because I feel as if we naturally put people in a box, right? Like if I walk into a room, okay, and like I'm at a nice event, I'm a CUNY Brooklyn College grad, all right? I went to Brooklyn College, but if I go into this event with two people from Brooklyn College, two people from UPenn, two people from Harvard, two people from Howard, and two people from Duke, it's almost as if like there's a class system that starts to form, right? Like a hierarchy. Like, okay, you went to Brooklyn College, that's a public funded school by the city in New York. All right, so you're going to be all the way down here. You're less important. I don't care what your degree's in, even if it's pre-law. You went to Duke. Okay, so you're right here. You went to Howard. All right, so you're like middle because you're an HBCU, so I'll put you right here. And you went to Harvard, or you went to UPenn. I'm going to put you guys at the top of the class, and I'm going to work my way down. And whoever I don't talk to you, then that means you're irrelevant. Why does that happen? And I'm gonna start with you first.
I think that people have really bought this idea that like going to school affords you this life-changing, particularly economically, opportunity, right? And in some ways it does, right? So I know that like I am definitely much better off because of the fact that I tried to go get a degree and I taught, right? But I'm also, almost $20,000 in debt, right? And so when I think about the fact that like I spent all this money going to school, getting these degrees, and having this like sophisticated language where I can talk and articulate myself in a way that people say, oh, you're smart, right? And all these things I've learned over the years, into conversations, right? I also know that like I want to buy a house soon, right? And I'm not in a position to actually do that, although I spent all this money on a school, right? I'm still also subject to having to live with somebody or live with the idea that someone has to hire me or make money, right? So I think the idea is that people confuse this idea of like you being successful with you being able to access like certain education opportunities again, which I think in some ways is true, but in other ways is not necessarily true. If that makes sense.
Mark, same question for you.
Let me hear the question again, just so I got it right.
No, so basically, the question was, why is there like a hierarchy system too in regards to where you went to school? Oh, you got your master's here, you got your PhD here. Yeah, well, you know what? I'm going to talk and network with you because you're relevant. There's some value to you that I could possibly use. As for you, you went here. No, you're not that important. I don't need to talk to you. Why do you think that happens in certain spaces or just in general in this society? Why do we place so much value on the name of a brand and the name of a culture and the name of a prestige? Why do we put prestige on things, especially in education?
I feel like in America, we tend to always focus on the quality of a product, not just the quality, or I would say we tend to focus on the name brand, because if someone rolls up in a Toyota, they'll say nice car, but it's a regular car. But if I ride up in a Rolls Royce, it's like, wow. I mean, can I sit in it? Can I take a picture with it? You know what I mean? So it's like Brooklyn College is a great school.
Mm-hmm.
The product does what it does. You got the degree.
Yeah.
You finished the curriculum.
Yep.
But if we look at a school like Harvard, you got the degree. It's the same degree, but the quality of it may be the same, but the brand is strong.
Right.
It's like it's really a brand at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really about quality. And it could be quality because they may have some notable professors, but at the end of the day, you guys both received an education. You guys both were, completed the curriculum and got the degree, but the brand is stronger. And you do have to pay for that brand, but it just holds more, notoriety for some reason. Just like with the car example that I used.
Mm-hmm.
People just tend to focus on the brand and not the actual quality.
Yeah.
Because you could go toe to toe with anyone from any school, but the fact that their brand is stronger, people are going to respect them more.
Yeah.
Because it's like, wow, you got into that school. Wow, you finished. So it's really strange, man. It just goes back to that capitalistic society where I have to have the nicest brand to look the coolest or have the most respect.
Yeah.
It's like, Old Navy Old Navy shirt versus a Supreme shirt. The guy with the Supreme shirt is going to get more respect because he paid more. So
Yeah.
it's tough, man. It's ridiculous, but that's just the way we are in America.
For
Actually,
sure.
in the world.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
based on your job or whatever.
Mhm. Mhm. That's
So
interesting.
it's interesting. Yep.
Yeah. And if you don't mind me asking you, I want to transition now to a much different topic. Me personally, gentlemen, currently I'm only teaching college courses, and I'm subbing, right, in a high school, but I'm not teaching 7th to 12th right now full time. After completing my 2-year TFA requirements. But for me personally, I struggle, or what I've struggled with is the fact that I would have students, that wouldn't be engaged in wanting to do the work, that weren't able to do the work. So their mission then became to distract their fellow peers and classmates in order to get everyone else off task. So that way they didn't feel isolated with the fact that they didn't know the information, and they could also disengage the others. And just this constant battle of assessments and trying to scale, how students did on this assessment and that assessment, and what their scores are looking like for the spring, for the fall, how does it compare to the national average and stuff like that. And one thing I can say is, like, I personally feel as if, like, with education, we're in trouble, because if I'm not playing like rap music and incorporating that into my lessons, like, I have like a gang full of students that are not interested and they're not engaged. You know what? Forget that. Shoot. Sometimes I'll play like a Kendrick Lamar or a J. Cole, and I'll try to like incorporate it in a guided reading, and they're like, "This is boring, yo." Like, yo, throw on that 6ix9ine, or throw on that Kodak, whatnot. And I'm like, I'm sorry guys, that's not my generation, so I can't connect to that. Plus, those guys aren't saying anything important; they just turn up, But the reason why I bring those up, gentlemen, is because, like, what I'm worried about at this point in time in terms of education, especially for our babies, for our students, what I'm worried about is that the lack of engagement, and the lack of engagement being one, the increase or the push for disciplinary action being two, and third, the lack of mentorship within schools will continue to perpetuate our students down this pipeline of the school to prison pipeline. I'm really, really worried about that, and I'm nervous because I see it every single day, and I feel as if day by day, year by year, the kids get less engaged and less interested. They're just coming to school just because they have to be there. And are there any ways right now that you, as an educator, you're combating that, and you're challenging that, and you're trying to dismantle the system within this not idea, but within this just framework of, you have students who are, totally disengaged and don't really want to be there and don't really want to learn anything? Like, what are some of the things that you've dealt with, or what are some of the things you're implementing into action right now to combat that?
I think one of the things that I use to combat it is, I think exposure. I think one of the things that I'm really hard pressed, even in my new role, I'm over in a classroom role, but in my new role, I supervise a team of teachers who supervise their own grade level team. And my major goal is to push them to really, really think about what are we being exposed to our kids to understanding, like how to access certain stuff, how do you think certain cultural things, like, different cultural nuances, like they have enriched experiences in school. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it's like exposing the things that they never would have seen otherwise, like literally, like they've never exposed them. I think the other thing is getting student voice to be a part of the conversation. I feel like so many schools get it wrong because there's so many of us who think we know students once, and we never include students in the conversation. Mm-hmm. We never decide that we want to bring a group of students who represent the pulse of the school and sit them down and ask them, like, what do we need and what's driving what we're doing here. Like, I think one of the things I think I'm proud of is like getting student voice. Like, they should definitely always be part of that conversation.
Right.
Sure.
Absolutely. Before, because, I see we're really short on time, so I don't want to go over. I want to be respectful of everyone's time here. I had one final question for the both of you. Mark, I'll let you go first. So It's funny because I already think I think I know what Mark's response is going to be. But Mark, let's say let's say 24, 25 years from now. I want to add some time to it because I know you want to, I know you're gonna, surpass a lot of the expectations that I have for you. And I know you're gonna need a comfortable window to really get the grind going in terms of being a millionaire, billionaire. But what I wanted to ask you, Mark, is your daughter, your son comes up to you, 17. About to be 18, transitioning to their senior year, and they're very smart, because obviously you're a very, very smart man, and God willing, I'm hoping that you do stay with the one that you're with, and you marry her, and she's your wife. They come up to both you guys, and they're like, "Mom, Dad, I know I have the best grades right now. I've had the best grades for a very long time in regards to my school and district. I'm like top 5, top 10 in my class, and I'm really looking at Harvard, and I'm looking at UPenn. I'm looking at the local state college, and I'm also looking at Howard, Hampton, Tuskegee, and some of the other cultural HBCUs in the South. Mom, Dad, what do you think will be the best option in between all three? Because what I want to do is, I want to go into this field of profession of dentistry or becoming a doctor or an engineer, and I need to go to school for this. What do you highly suggest? Because I definitely know I need a degree in order to get to this profession. Mark, what would you tell your son or daughter, and what would be their options? What would you say to them?
Wow, I mean, first off, it would have to be, dentist, doctor, lawyer, or engineer. Because I don't want to waste money. But it would actually be, which one can you afford? Because we're not going to...
Not just the best name, not just the best brand name.
Exactly. Don't financially institutionalize yourself for a degree. That's not smart. Because we're just learning from the mistakes of the previous generation, which is us. We indebted ourselves through college, and it's hampering our ability to move up in life. Yeah. So it would be nonsense if we allow our kids to put the chains on themselves as well. Yeah. So I would have to definitely say, which one can you afford? Because we're not about to take out a loan for you to go to Duke and be in debt $100,000. Because that's a lot of money. The average person doesn't get to save $100,000. So how can you borrow $100,000? You know what I mean? Unless it's like a doctor, a lawyer, not even a lawyer. If it's a doctor, then I could say, okay, you have a reasonable, it's a reasonable timeline of paying that back. But some degrees really I don't see the ROI for you to take out a loan for. So yeah, it would have to be one of those specific careers, or else it's just going to be whichever one you can afford.
Of course. Ant, same question for you.
I would echo a lot of Mark's comments. What makes the most sense? It's funny. My oldest brother made a comment. He said something that I thought was interesting. Him and his wife, they went to school. They had their master's degrees. They're middle class, and solidly middle class. And both of them made the comment. He said pretty much in his mind he wants to send my niece and my nephew real estate. It's this idea of he's I don't want y'all to go into debt and trying to go to school. And not that he doesn't value both of my teachers. So not that he doesn't value education, but in his mind he's kind of what skills can I teach you? Can I give you? It's going to allow you some permission to make money and live on your own terms, right? And so what would happen is our students were able, our families or people or our students or families were able to have money and then decide to go to school, if that makes sense. Yeah. So school didn't become the burden of you have to go to school in order to live a life, right? It becomes I want to go to school for the educational purposes, but I have other ways to make money besides find a career. Does that make sense? I feel I don't want my children or people who come after me to feel like they have to go to school and get mountains of debt to feel like they've made it, right? Versus they found something they're really interested in, they want to do, and they found a way to make money to where they're not living paycheck to paycheck, but they're actually living out their best dreams. Right. So very much kind of similar to what Mark said, what's going to get you the bang for your buck versus you going into debt to live paycheck to paycheck.
I agree. That's sound advice. That's sound advice. Excellent, excellent. All right, so gentlemen, we've transitioned to our final segment of the day. All right, which is our word to the wise segment, where we give one word to the wise community out there about whatever the topic is of the day. And so obviously, since today's topic focuses on black education as well as black educators and the importance of black educators within the impoverished urban schools and just the entire community in general. What I wanted to ask you both, what would your word to the wise be to the listeners out there today? And it could be about anything that we just talked about, whether it is about making sound financial wise decisions about which school your students or your children will go to, or whether it is maybe a question geared towards the schools, the districts, and as well as the system itself in terms of like how to properly run and fund these schools and administer the best quality education possible to make sure that the students feel as if they're within a productive, high efficient quality environment, and not just a school that is just having them do the basic groundwork to just go out there and just work in the world with no purpose. So I'm going to start off with Ant first. With everything we just talked today, and to all the listeners out there, whether it's a parent, fellow teachers, administrators who aren't black, right, who aren't Hispanic or don't come from our neighborhoods and our communities. What is one word to the wise that you would like to offer to any of these folks within these sectors?
Listen.
That's it.
I mean, listen.
Wow.
I think that oftentimes we're hearing stuff audibly, but we're not listening.
Listen. I like that. I guess I'll go next, and then I'll have Mark close it out. Me personally, one word to the wise that I would give is offer a variety of an educational experience. So I put that on not just the teachers, but I put that also on the administration as well. Oftentimes, and I dealt with this myself over the past couple of years. I was the only teacher in both of the middle schools that I taught at that was offering creative writing programs, that was offering poetry slams, open mics, and different programs like that. And obviously I get it, right? I'm a writer, I'm a poet, I have extra talents that can cater and serve the needs of students to help them learn and allow it to be more beneficial to them. But I feel as if like that's what we're really missing. I feel as if like we're missing a form of school spirit, a form of activities to help bring the students and as well as the teachers and the administration together. A lot of these teachers that I've worked with, at 3:15, they going home for the day. They're packing their bags and they're right behind that yellow bus, making sure they hop in their car as soon as all the kids are out, and they're gone. Like, I don't see any true investment going and pouring into the youth. So I would say more extracurricular activities and a variety of activities to connect to the students more in order to increase relationships within schools between students and teachers, and as well as work quality and work engagement. Mark?
Yeah, definitely, man. I agree with what both of you guys said. My word to the wise would be, don't rely on school for your education. Because as we know, the purpose of school is not to make you rich or wealthy or to make you financially free. It's to make you an employee. That's what college teaches you. That's what, elementary teaches you. It brings you up to be an employee or a prisoner, in my opinion. So, we just have to focus on educating ourselves and educating our children on different ways to make money. Because, as I've said before in the podcast, the average millionaire has 7 sources of income, and the average person has 1. You can't do anything with 1. You just can't.
Yeah.
You're just going to get by with 1.
Right.
Average millionaire has 7. So we definitely have to, increase our knowledge on how to create income sources, and thank God for the internet, we have access to it all. We can learn anything we want to learn through the internet. So that's definitely my word to the wise. And it's just tough, man, because in this age, as you guys are educators, you guys know 100%, this is like an age where the parents don't really raise the kids anymore. The phones raise the kids.
Yeah.
They're addicted to the phones. The phones control their thoughts. The phones influence what they want to buy. The phones influence how they're supposed to think.
Yeah.
So with that type of influence, you may see your kid for 5 minutes a day saying hi and bye when you hug him, but his phone has him for 12 hours a day and is feeding him all of these different ideologies and consumeristic mindset. And it's really tough to raise someone when you only see them for a few minutes, but their phone is in their face for hours at a time. Which one are they going to learn more from? So it's a tough one, man.
Nah, that's true. Man. And it's so funny you bring that up because we're actually going to elaborate on that too in one of our future episodes. But I'll definitely tell you more about that off air. But, to kind of just reflect back on it and just to wrap this all up. And man, we're truly thankful, man. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to, especially an off day, right? Where you could be doing anything, laundry, getting ready for work to talk to us, man. We really appreciate it. And yo, I'm gonna make sure I put this out there, because it's gonna be on wax. Yo, Mark, I'm telling you right now, this guy, he works hard, man. Ant works really hard at what he does, but he also parties hard too. So yo, next time I'm in Philly, boy, yo, you better ask me to come out with you, man, because I be on this guy's gram like, I'm like, Ant work hard, man, but he play hard too, man. I love this brother. He's smart and he like to have fun. For sure, man. I literally, before we did the podcast today, I was like, let me go see what Ed did last night. I know Ed did something, man. He was at a gallery and whatnot, man. He was living his life. Ant, please, if you don't mind, could you please let the people know where they can reach you online on socials and anything and all that jazz?
My Instagram account is Mr. for the Culture, so it's Mr. period 4 DA _ and then culture.
Excellent.
For the culture.
Mm-hmm. IG, excellent. So you guys heard him, Mr. for the Culture. All right, you can check him out now on Instagram. All right, follow him. He has such a big heart. He's a great person. I had a lot of fun hanging out with him. The little bit of time that I did actually this past spring in Memphis, we were out there for a TFA conference. It was great, and literally I did the same thing too. I went out to eat. I got a drink at a nice bar. I got back inside at 2 a.m. I said, you know what, I should go out, but it's raining hard. I said, you know what, let me go on Instagram. I'm like, Anthony, what did he do last night? And just as you know, it was partying hard, man. I said, yo, man, I'm like, this guy be on it, man. But he works so hard too. I love him so much. So, Ant, once again, man, we really truly appreciate your time for coming on here today.
No problem.
Definitely. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That is our episode for this week. All right. Follow us online at Wise Guys NYC. We still didn't get the Twitter up yet, but I promise you, I'll be working on it real soon. And the email, I had to change it because there were some complications with it. So the email is now thewiseguysnyc@gmail.com. I'll repeat it again, thewiseguysnyc@gmail.com. So please be sure to send in your questions, your comments, your concerns. And also, if you truly did love all the words of wisdom that our fellow wise guy, Ant Harris, dropped for you all today, could you please, ladies and gents, it doesn't matter whether, you follow him or not, or you're not his friend. If you truly felt impacted and touched by what he said, could you please reach out to this man on IG and send him some love, drop him a DM and let him know what you thought about some of his perspective and in regards to teaching and binary opposition of Washington and Du Bois and all that jazz. Please show this man some love, because he could have been doing anything with his time today, and for him to take an hour and a half or whatever it was out of his day to hop on our podcast, we truly appreciate it. So next week, if I'm not mistaken, I think we are talking the ambitious life of women. All right, and we have 2 special female guests that will be coming on the show next week, but we'll save that for next week. All right, so once again, I said it at the beginning of the show, I am Kevin Anglad, and we are joined by our very special guest,
Anthony Harris.
and you are now tuning in to the Wise Guys podcast. We'll see you all next week. All right, take care.